All right, we'll give it 4 more minutes just to make sure. And can everyone hear me okay? All righty. Well, it's 10:04. I don't think anyone else is going to join us. If they do, I'll give them till 10:05. But we're going to go ahead and get started. The training today should last about 60 minutes or so, and I will allow room at the end for you to ask any questions if you have any. This training is should be new centers are going to probably be on this training, as well as centers that need a refresher. If you are a new center and have not started in the CACFP, I will send you your login and password after the training, okay? So you'll receive that in an email after today's training, so you'll be able to log in and see your Kid Kare account. So today we're going to look at, of course, how to log into Kid Kare. Kid Kare is a web-based software, so you can log in from any computer, tablet, phone, anything that you can get to the internet, you can get to your Kid Kare. We're going to look at Kid Kare's dashboard and the importance of that. We'll also be looking at the child roster, the list children, how to add a new participant, because up until now, you've been sending us your income and enrollment forms, and we've been putting them into the system for you. But once you have access to your Kid Kare, you will be putting in the child's information yourself and printing off that income and enrollment form yourself. So that means you would have to give it to the parent, let them sign it, and then give it to us. How to print your weekly attendance and meal count worksheets. And I want to emphasize number 7. When you print your weekly attendance and meal count worksheets, that's going to give you the paper copy of how to complete your meal counts. That's only going to be used in cases of emergency. So I am going to ask that you all print those at the beginning of the month, file them away somewhere, or save them on your computer somewhere, so you can print off the month or the week or the day that you need in case there's an emergency. But I do not want you using paper meal counts. Everything needs to be entered into Kid Kare. Then we're going to look at how to add a new user and Kid Kare permissions. This function or feature is for if you want to add additional employees or staff that you have, and you don't want them to have the entire access to your Kid Kare, because Kid Kare will allow you to see what your reimbursement is. There's tax information on there. So you just might want your staff to be able to see how to put in menus or how to record the attendance and meal counts. So I will show you how to add a new user and how to create their Kid Kare permissions. Finally, we'll look at steps to success, which is just going to be an overview of what we discussed, and then procedures for submitting your monthly claim. This is how you submit your claim to receive your reimbursement. Then after we do all of that, we're going to look at how to enter your menus into Kid Kare, and that's a different section of the manual. But just to let you know, that's what we'll be looking at after that. And like I said, it should take us about 60 minutes or so. And then I'll have it open for questions at the end if you have any questions, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to have the Kid Kare up on the screen and just work through each of these topics. And then if you do have questions, we do have a small enough group. So if you do use the raise hand function, I should be able to answer your question if I look over to see it, because I'm using 2 screens here. All right, so when you first log on to Kid Kare, let me go back to this page here. You're going to see a screen that looks like this. You'll put in your username, your password. You can check to remember me, so you don't have to do that every time. But if you're like me, please try to remember your password so you don't take forever to log back in. You would just need to go to kidkare.com, or once you receive your instructions, you can just click there and it'll take you to kidkare.com. So that's what the login screen is going to look like. But I'm already logged in. And when you first log in, the first thing is going to be your dashboard. Now, I do want you all to pay attention to your dashboard. When you log in, please go there first. I want you to make sure that if you have any pending children, that means that we have not received the income and enrollment form, or we have received the income and enrollment form, However, we have not had a chance to input it into Kid Kare as of yet, okay? So I really want you to make sure that you manage this because as you already know, you want to make sure that you keep your free and reduced percentage above 25%. Having pending children on your roster brings your free and reduced percentage down. So you really want to make sure that you don't have 16 children, like my example here, of children. They're actually going to the center, enrolled in the center. You want to make sure that they get their income and enrollment forms complete. Now, how you do that? If they're an active child, then you just click on their name. If they're no longer attending your center, you can just hit withdraw and that will take them off and they will no longer be in the pending. But if they are attending your center, you'll click on their name, it's a hyperlink, and it's going to take you to the child's profile. In the child's profile, there are certain areas on the screen, and we're going to go through them right now. The first one is going to be where you see the child's pertinent information, their date of birth, their original enrollment date. This information here can only be updated by Child Care Resources. So if there's anything incorrect, then you need to let Susan know the name is spelled incorrectly or the date of birth is wrong, and she will update that, okay? But how the only thing that you can edit in the screen as well is just the classroom. So anything else that needs to be changed or updated on the screen, you do need to go through Child Care Resources. And I suggest going through Susan to do that so she can update that information for you. How to get the income and enrollment form, you would just simply click on the enrollment/IEF form under the child's block. This is an area that you can actually put the child's picture on if you want to. So you can put their picture here. For right now, it just has their initials. Once you click on this, this is going to open up a separate PDF for you to download or to print and provide it to the parent. So I'm going to let it do its little thing and twirl, and then I'll show you what that looks like. But also, while that's turning, you can update the child's schedule at any time. This is something that you can update. So the enrollment form is ready. So you'll just click on that, and it'll take you to the child enrollment form and income form, okay? So that's what you see here. You would just either print this off and give it to the parent or save it somewhere on your computer and give it to them when they're available. But this is what you would want to make sure that you print and give to the parent. There is some information that's already pre-filled. So the child's name is already going to be pre-filled, their age, date of birth. On the enrollment form, you see that their hours and care is already completed, the meals that they will be receiving, the parent information. So in this case, the parent would just need to sign, make sure the parent signs and dates, okay? And this form might look slightly different from the form that you use in your state. I believe this is the Ohio form. I don't know if this is for, yeah, this is Ohio's form. So this form is going to look slightly different from the form that you might see. All right, so that's how you get that form. You want to make sure, though, again, that you're getting these income and enrollment forms completed by all the parents and getting it over to Child Care Resources. This information at the bottom, it's going to be the parent's information. So the contact information, you have your, if you click here, the meals are listed here. Allergies, if the child has any allergies, things of that nature. This area is demographics. We do not require race, ethnicity, or gender. So a lot of times this information will not be completed, and that's fine. So that's what you'll see in the child's profile. The most important part in this screen is making sure that you click on the enrollment IEF form, get it completed by the parent, and get it over to Child Care Resources so the child is not sitting in the pending area on this form here. You do want to keep your eye on this and make sure that if we've had the form for too long, so let's say you know that you submitted it to Child Care Resources and it's been, a few weeks. Well, you might want to double check with Susan just to make sure that she's received it and had the chance to classify that, okay? If the child, again, is an infant, now in this program, an infant is anyone under the age of 12 months. We have to have the infant feeding forms. So same method, you would click on the child's name, it'll take you over to the child's profile. You'll select here to print the enrollment/IEF form. When you select that, the infant form will also come up. Okay, so that's how you get the infant form, by selecting the enrollment/IEF form. Okay. These blocks down here, the only other one that you would need to keep your eye on is expiring enrollments. So that is a child that's already been or is enrolled in your program. Remember, these forms are only good for 1 year. So at the end of the year, they're going to expire at the end of that time that the parent has dated it. So for instance, if a parent filled out a form in April of this month or of this year, it will expire at the end of April next year, 2026. Okay, so they're only good for a year. So if you see children falling in this expiring enrollments, you know you want to click on them if they're still coming to the center and get that income and enrollment form completed. We want to again make sure that we keep those income and enrollment forms current. Now, you can always check your status as far as where you are in the free and reduced percentage. You can check that by going to reports. And when you're in reports, you want to go to children. From there, you'll go to child roster. And then you'll just select, let's select March, and then you'll hit run. Anytime you're selecting anything in reports, it's going to pull up in your Adobe or whatever PDF reader that you have on your computer. So it's pulled up, and I'm going to just review this with you all really quick here. This is the enrollment roster. And the most important thing, well, there are a few important things on this sheet, but one of the most important things is this free and reduced percentage here. You want to make sure that this percentage is always above that, over 25% or over. So you want to make sure this number here is always going to be 25% or over. So, and also you want to make sure you're free, your F, that stands for free. You have 5 free. Your R stands for reduced. You have 1. And paid, or P stands for paid, and you have 9. So this is broken down in the percentage and the percentages for each of those categories. Here you have the list of the children that are in your center, their classrooms. This column here really doesn't mean much. This is just the number that they were entered into your center. So that's not a big deal. Their age, date of birth, the enrollment. So this is when they were enrolled in the CACFP, not necessarily your program. Okay, so this is when they were initially enrolled in the CACFP, and this is when their form expires. In this column, again, you see the free, reduced, and paid. So when you're looking at this row here, you see this child, Alexander, he has an F. That means he's free, and its basis is because of food stamps. Paid, a lot of times children are going to fall in that paid category if a parent decides that they just do not want to fill out the income form. Or if they do fill out the income form, their percentage rate is, or their income is higher than what the bracket allows. And so they'll fall into that paid. When you have your children that are falling into free, it could be for several reasons. It could be because of the income. So they fall in that because of income, food stamps, TANF. If they are a runaway or a foster, something of that nature, they will all fall under the free category. The reduced category is normally always going to be based on income, okay? So this child right here has an R, and you see over here INC. So they're reduced based on income, okay? So that's how you can look at this form, and you'll know, keep your eye again on this percentage rate. Make sure you keep it above that 25%, because if it falls below, you will not receive reimbursement, all right? So that's our dashboard, and that's the importance of making sure that we get these income forms complete. We want to make sure that we don't have children sitting in pending or missing infant feeding forms or expiring enrollments. The next thing on here is our list children. I like to think of the list children screen as your roster on Kid Kare. So this screen should mimic what you have, the children you have enrolled in your program, okay? Every child enrolled in your program should have an enrollment form. Regardless of the parents complete the income or complete the income form, they should all have an enrollment form, okay? So before we go too deep into the screen, I do want to show you the filters. You want to always make sure that this screen is filtered by active. You want to active, and you know that it's pushed if it's blue. So you want to have your active and your pending. So even children that are in pending, you want to see on the screen. So if this is not checked, you will not see them. So make sure your pending is checked. You want to see your infants and your non-infants, okay? You do not want to see your withdrawn children, because your withdrawn children should not be on your roster. They're not enrolled and they're not attending your center. So you do not need to have this withdrawn. You do not need to have it checked, okay? You can sort by first name or last name. Just know that if you choose to sort by either one, that's how it's going to be sorted on all other screens, okay? So I'm going to leave it on first name for now. So that's our filters. Again, the important thing about your filter is to make sure that you are filtered by active, pending, and your infants and non-infants. That's what you want to see. Your classrooms, now you can see all classrooms, or you can select particular classrooms that you want to see. So if you just want to see the children in your infant classrooms or your preschool classrooms, you can select those as you wish. I'm going to put it back on all classrooms, okay? Again, this is your enrollment on Kid Kare. So this should mimic your enrollment at your center. If you log in and you notice that a child is not showing up on here, either in active or pending, you need to add them, and you will add them manually. So once you're onboarded, it's now up to you to add all the participants. Childcare resources, we're no longer adding them. We did that initially to get you set up. Now you're ready to go and are approved and ready to start in the program. So now you have to add them. And how you do that is by hitting add manually. And when you do that, it's going to take you to the enroll child screen. Now, everything with a red asterisk is mandatory. If it does not have a red asterisk, you do not need to complete any information in those fields. So I'm going to go ahead and enter a new child, and I'm going to name this child Harry Monster. Don't know why. Date of birth, 1/2/20. Okay. Child is 5. Classroom, so you want to put them in a classroom. So I'm going to say their school age. The enrollment date is going to automatically pre-fill to the date that you're putting into the system. But if this isn't the right date, then you can always go back and change it. I do want to show you a couple of nuances with this field here. So if I said, let's just say this child started on March the 24th, you will notice down here under the expiration date, it will pre-fill to the end of the month of March into the following year, which will be 2026. However, if the child did actually start, let's say today on the 3rd, it's going to go give you the expiration date of 4/30/2026. This just means you do not need to go in and really do much with the enrollment expiration date. If the enrollment expiration date needs to be updated, we will do it here on our end once we receive the income and enrollment form, okay? So you can just go ahead and leave that as it is. At this time, if you do not know if the child has any special needs or anything of that nature, if you do not know this information, there is not a red asterisk, so you do not need to complete it. You can leave it as it is. Race, ethnicity, and gender, of course, are not required. If you want to enter the information in, you can. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and just hit next. On this screen, you can either add the child to an existing household or to an existing family, or you can say that it's a child that does not belong to an existing household of a participant that you have enrolled in your program. So what that just means is if it is a child that has a sibling or has the same guardians or whatever, you can hit here, existing, and then select the family or the parent that they belong to. But we're going to mark this child as new. You do need to mark whether or not it's the mother, father, or alternate that you are enrolling the child in with. So we're going to say mother. And this is going to be the mom. So you do have to, again, anywhere there's a red asterisk, you do need to put in information. And then you want to go ahead and hit next. Again, there is not a requirement to put in days in care, but just know if you put this information in, it will show up on the income and enrollment form, or the enrollment form rather, which will make it a lot easier for the parents, and that way they don't have to enter in the information. Once you're finished, hit enroll child. All right. So now our child is enrolled. Harry Monster is here, and everything looks good. You can go here to the enrollment/IEF form, and this will allow you to print off the income and enrollment form that you can print and provide to the parent. When I go back to the list children, which I like to think of as my enrollment area, I see the child that I just enrolled here, Harry Monster. He's in pending because we do not have his income and enrollment form on file. So that's the only reason he's sitting here in pending. But there he is. He's now enrolled. Now, when I look at list children screen or my enrollment screen, it mimics my enrollment roster at my center, and I'm good to go. Okay, so everybody's here. You want to make sure that all the children that are on your enrollment, that are enrolled in your center, are showing up on your list children before you mark attendance, okay? Because you need to be able to mark attendance for everyone who's attending your center. So to mark attendance, you'll just go down to this next field here and select attendance and meal count. Alrighty, so before we get into how to mark attendance, I do want to show you how the screen works, okay? So we have our filters again. Again, you want to make sure that you are filtered by active and pending. The layout will allow you to view the photos. These little blocks here, you can put photos here or hide the photos. We're just going to leave them for now, okay? The date field is always going to pre-fill to today's date. You can go back, so I can go back to 4/2, but I cannot go forward. So meaning I can't go past 4/3, okay? So I can only go back, I can't go forward. You can again select which classrooms you want to see, or you can leave it at all classrooms. And this area here, this is your meal service area. This area is an important part of this screen as well. The meal times here Meal counts are supposed to be marked at the point of service. So when we talk about meal counts in just a few, we will look at this area again a little bit more, okay? But just keep in mind that this is something that you're going to want to pay attention to, and you might need to change your meal time if you find that this is not enough time for you to complete your meal counts. And then there's save button. You're going to always have to hit save. Anytime that you make a change on the screen, you have to go back and hit save. Your totals in and out. So this is pertaining to your attendance. How many children you have in attendance and how many you have out that aren't in attendance. All righty, so let's go ahead and start recording our attendance. And we're going to record attendance for breakfast, or we're just going to record attendance. Never mind what I just said about recording attendance for breakfast. I suggest that you record attendance as children enter into the center, as they arrive, as they enter into the classroom. You want to make sure attendance is always being checked, and that before you mark your meal counts that you double check to make sure that everyone is in attendance and they have been checked. All right, so how we mark attendance is just this little box here. You just click on it. Several things happen when you click on it. One, it turns green. It's a little ATT, that store attendance appears, a little check mark comes up. So some things that goes on when you select your attendance. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hit save because I do want to show you some other aspects about your attendance. So now I've marked 7 in. So you see I have 7 children marked in attendance. Little pointer, 7 in, and I have 25 out. Also, I want to show you, I'm going to go back up to this little mealtime field. If I went to, I do want you to look at these fork and knives. So when I hit the attendance button right here, these little fork and knives appear. But if I advanced my meal and I went to lunch, they disappear. Okay, you see that? So if I go back to breakfast, they're there. If I go to lunch, they disappear. And the reason for that is because, again, looking at this meal time, now I was supposed to serve my breakfast between the hours of 7 and 9, and currently it's 10:30. So the system is telling me, you've marked these kids in attendance. You can mark the meal counts now because you should have marked them between 7 and 9. So you have the capability of doing that now. But if I go to lunch, which is served between 1 and 2, and it's not 1 o'clock yet, there is not a fork and knife. Well, you might be saying, well, Angela, I see some fork and knives. Well, this child here, Betty Lane, she has a fork and knife because she's 8 months old. Infants eat on demand. So they're not held to the same time constraints as our children that are over the age of 1. So they can eat whenever. So you can mark your meal counts for your infants whenever you like. But for your children over the age of 1, you can only mark them at the point of service. I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm talking about meal counts and I'm supposed to be talking about attendance, but they kind of go hand in hand. So it's hard to only focus on one. But I do want to go back to our attendance. So we marked our attendance for breakfast. I'm going to continue to do that. And this is just one way to mark your attendance. So if you had a computer up by the front desk or something of that nature, or a tablet, and if you had someone that had the capability of marking attendance, they could just mark the attendance as the children come in. So now my attendance is marked. The other way to mark attendance is to select this button here, daily attendance. And when I select it, it's going to take me to a screen that's a little bit more condensed. And all I would have to do is just select the name, and it goes from not present to present. And hit save. Okay, so that's that. That's how you mark your attendance. Attendance, of course, always needs to be marked before you mark your meal counts. Now, when we were doing meal counts on paper, it was easier to make a mistake, to mark a meal count but not mark attendance because you're doing it manually. However, through Kid Kare, as you see, you have to mark your attendance. It will not even allow you to mark anything if the attendance button is not checked. So there's no way for you to accidentally mark a meal count if you did not mark them in attendance. That's why it's very important to mark your children in attendance, because if they're a free child or a reduced child and you're not marking them in attendance and they're there, then that's reimbursement that you're not going to be receiving. So please make sure, if you have your teachers doing it on their phones or tablets in their classrooms, let them know the importance of marking attendance, making sure that they are marked. The child is marked. You cannot mark meal counts without it. Alrighty, so we've marked our attendance for the day. I also encourage before, and I might have just said this, but I'm going to say it again. I encourage before your teachers mark, or whomever that's marking the meal counts, before they do that, they double check attendance. So even though we see that the attendance has been marked, before you start marking meal counts, you just might want to double check to make sure that everything has been, your attendance has been marked. You can again scroll to see certain classrooms. So if you just want to look at your infant classroom to see if everybody's there, or if you just want to look at the preschool teacher, just wants to look at the preschool class to see, it might be easier for them to focus in on just one particular class, and that's fine. You can do it that way. But we're going to go ahead and mark our breakfast meal counts. Now, how you mark your breakfast or how you mark meal counts in general is very simple. You just hit on this fork and knife. Several things happen again when I'm clicking on this fork and knife. One of the things that happens is that this fork and knife turns orange. I get a B for breakfast. You see that? I get a B. Where's that B at? I get a B for breakfast, and I am in breakfast, so I get that B there. This number here changed to 6. Do you see that? So that's telling me I have 6 marked for breakfast. And this number here saying I have 28 marked in, 4 children are marked out. I've marked 6 for breakfast. This classroom has 6 marked. If I scroll down to this classroom down here, I don't have any children marked. So once I've marked that, I have 1 now marked. So that's how that works. All right, let's hit save. And that's going to be the same AM snack. I can mark that because AM snack should have been served between 9:15 to 10:30. You all need to mark your meal counts at the point of service. It's 10:37, so really these meal counts needed to be marked between 9:15 and 10:30. We can see when you mark your meal counts. When your first 90 days or so, we know you're getting acclimated and new to the program. So if you miss a meal count and got to go back, or even miss a day and got to go back, we understand. But what we really want you to get in the habit of marking them at the point of service, okay? We can put constraints on there. So if your monitor comes out and they see that you're always marking them late, they might make it where you can't go back. And we don't want to do that, because we know you guys are busy. You're doing the good work of taking care of the children and making sure that they have their needs met. And sometimes things happen. So if on the consistent, for the most basis, you're doing them at the point of service, it's fine. If you have a slip up here and there, people go on vacation, staff turnover, we get it. But really, really, really try to make a huge effort at just doing it at the point of service. All right, that's all I'm going to say about that. All right, so you go ahead and mark your AM snacks and just select the button again. That's all you're doing. And you see you have A's, little A's show up here for AM snack. And then you want to hit save after you're done. So that's one way to mark your meal counts. The other way to mark your meal counts is, let's just say your policy is, if you are present at our center, we're going to feed you. If you are here, you're getting a plate, you're getting served. If that's your policy, you can easily hit, instead of selecting each little fork and knife, you can just hit, where is it? Select all. This button here. If you hit select all, then any child marked in attendance during this meal is going to be marked as receiving a snack. You see that? So now everyone that was marked in attendance has an A here because I hit select all, this little fork and knife here. But let's just say that is your policy, that if you're in attendance, you receive a meal or your snack, but you know this child here did not gain. They were in attendance, but their parents, really did not want them to have goldfish crackers, and that's what y'all had today, so you didn't serve them the goldfish crackers. So all you would have to do is just go in and hit it again and take it off and hit save. Also, this little red box around this child's name means that they have a special diet. This is going to be very helpful for you if you have new teachers coming in or something of that nature. This is going to alert you to look at the child's profile to see what special diet that they have. What's going on? Do I have to give them special milk? Can they not be around, nuts? Like, what's going on? So this is just alerting you to know that there is a special diet in play, and you need to go back to their profile to see what that is. So if you log in a special diet under that child's profile, they'll get that red block around their name. So we're looking at our totals. We see here we have 14 that had breakfast, 27 that had AM snack. I'm going to go ahead and advance to lunch. And guess what? Again, we can't mark lunch unless they're an infant. We can't mark anybody else for lunch. Okay. So I went ahead and marked the three little infants that had lunch because those are our little greedy infants, and they wanted to eat. So they ate their lunch, and they'll probably eat again. Okay. So that's how you mark your meal counts and attendance. Super easy. Just make sure you do it at the point of service. Play around with it when you get your login and password. If you already have your login and password, if you're just here for a refresher, play around with it, get familiar with it, so it won't be intimidating to you when it comes time to mark them during meal service. Now, let's see where we are on our thing. All right, so I showed you how to add a new participant, how to record your attendance and meal counts. So now we're going to look at how to print our weekly attendance and meal count worksheets. Again, this is just for emergency purpose. If you tried to get into Kid Kare, and this does not happen often, but let's just say you tried to get into your Kid Kare account and you couldn't log in. You need to know, you still need to record your attendance and meal counts. So not being able to get into Kid Kare is not an excuse for not recording your attendance and meal counts. So you would go to meals and attendance, and then from there, you want to go to your weekly attendance and meal count report. And I would say print it off for the entire month or save it to your computer for the entire month and hit run. Again, this is going to pull up in Adobe or whatever PDF reader that you have. Got a second. All right. All right, so this is what it looks like. If you're not familiar with this sheet, we're going to go over it really quickly, but it's going to already have the names of the children listed on here. And these P's just stand for pending. We always want you to know when a child is pending because it's very important. That means we need their forms. The ATT, of course, stands for attendance. So you would mark the X in attendance. B is for breakfast, A, AM snack, L, lunch, P, PM snack. If you had a dinner, it would be a D here. And if you had an evening snack, it would be an E here. These are already going to be dated, so you do not need to write or any dates or anything of that nature on this form here. And all you would do, so let's just say Friday, the system wasn't working, you would go ahead and just fill this out. You can give each teacher their classroom, and then they would just fill it out. After the system is up and running, so this is, again, emergency purpose. The system is down, you use the paper sheet, you marked it on the paper sheet, enter it into Kid Kare once the system is back up and running, okay? You will need to provide us with the meal count sheets that you did by hand. all right? And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But just know, we will still need to see that information because the federal government requires that we have original documentation for meal counts, okay? So if your original documentation is on paper, we would need to have that paper, all right? And usually it should only be for one day. Hopefully it's no days, because usually you can get into the system. But if something happens, we do want to have a backup to that. So that's how you print your weekly attendance and meal count worksheets. The next thing we're going to go over is how to add a new user to Kid Kare, okay? So you would need to go to Administration, User Permissions, and when you're in here, this particular, this row here, Administrator Center, this is the owner's row. So this is the director or the owner. You do not want to make any changes to this row here, okay? Everything is set up the way it needs to be set up here. What you would want to do is hit Add User. Unfortunately, I have added myself so many times to this, all my email addresses and all the little tricks to make myself, I can't add myself here again, but what you would do is add the first and last name. You would need to have a unique email address. This one is not unique, so if I hit Add User, it's going to give me an error message. But once the person is added, they will show up here, okay? Then you can go in through the little pencil and you can select, I want them to be able to record attendance, or I want them to be able to record center menus. You can select what you want them to be able to do, okay? You have access to do just about everything on here. But if you want your particular employee or staff to do certain things, you can select what you want them to do. And that's how that works, okay? If that employee goes on vacation and you just do not want them to have access while they're on vacation, you can make them inactive. And then if they are no longer employed by you and you just want to delete their account, you can just hit delete, okay? And that way they will not be able to have access to your Kid Kare account. So that is how that works. Alrighty, so now we've finished this section of the training, and we're going to look at steps to success. So going back to the beginning, one, I do want you to check your dashboard daily. You're checking your dashboard to make sure that you have printed off income and enrollment forms for children that are pending, or children that need to have their infant formula choice form completed by their parent or guardian. So please make sure you check your dashboard daily, that you don't have children just hanging out there, okay? It's very important. It's important for that free and reduced percentage rate, because we know we want to keep that above 25%. So that is very important. Check your roster. This says weekly. I was being a little bit aggressive with that, but check your roster at least every other week, making sure that you're keeping it above that 25%, checking to see how we have those children, how we have your children classified. That's important. We might have a child classified as paid, but you know they should be free. And then that might kind of spark something to say, hey, let me look at this income and enrollment form. Maybe the parent didn't fill out something correctly, or whatever that might be. But you do want to make sure that you're checking your roster. View the list children and add any child that's not on your Kid Kare roster. So you want your view list children screen to mimic your center enrollment, okay? So you want to check that to make sure it does. And if it does not, then you need to add the child or any missing children that aren't showing up there. This says delete, but actually the word is withdraw. Withdraw children that are no longer enrolled at your center. So if they're no longer enrolled, go ahead and withdraw them, because they're going to bring down your free and reduced percentage if they're just hanging out there. Record attendance as the children arrive. So as they're coming into your center, as they're coming into your classroom, actively enroll them or actively record their attendance, okay? So you can go ahead and get that out of the way. So during mealtime, it'll make it a lot easier. The only thing you need to do is double check that they've been marked in attendance and then to mark them for their meal counts. Record meal counts at the point of service. So you want to make sure that at the point of service, you're recording your meal counts. If your policy is you're present at our center, you're going to receive a meal, use that feature that says record all, or the one that meal counts that you can capture all with just press of a button. Print your attendance and meal count worksheets at the beginning of the month to have in case of emergency. I cannot emphasize enough, that's only in case of an emergency. You do not want to mark meal counts and then every day on paper, then put them into Kid Kare. That's not how that works. By the 10th of the month, you need to scan and email the following documents to claims@ccresourcesinc.org. So, in just a few, I'm going to show you how to put your menu into Kid Kare. But if you have any changes to your menus that you haven't updated or anything like that, you want to make sure that you print your menu to Kid Kare, or I'm sorry, that you scan your menu and email it to claims@ccresources Inc. Your staff time and duty worksheets. Remember, those staff time and duty worksheets are what your staff is completing, what you're completing, saying this is the amount of time that I spent doing CACFP duties, and your monthly receipts. That needs to be submitted to childcare resources by the 10th of the month. So if your center is starting in April and you have started completing your meal counts and all that kind of good stuff, then by the 10th of May, we need to have this information, okay? Once you submitted it to the claims@ccresourcesinc.org email, you will receive a little short message that says, thank you for submitting. Your claims documentation will be reviewed shortly. Okay, so that's how that works. There is a function on Kid Kare, Kid Kare Help. So if you are on there and you get stuck, please use that. That has some helpful tips. Also, this manual that we're looking at right now has everything that we discussed today in there, so you can use that if you need additional help. And then finally, we're just going to look at how to enter your menus into Kid Kare. It's very easy. This should take about 5 minutes, and then I will have it open for questions if you have any. All right, so how to enter your menus into Kid Kare. On the daily menu screen, so under menus and attendance, go to daily menu. Again, the date field is up here. You can go forward, you can go back. So you can do that. You can also put in your menus for infants and non-infants. So either way, that's fine. I do encourage that you put in your menus at least for all of your non-infants. A lot of times I tell people for your infant menu to do a weekly cycle menu for your infants. And I'll show you how you can cut and paste and have that in Kid Kare as well in just a few. But when you're entering in your menus, you do have to do each item one at a time when you first start. So the first time you're entering your menus, it is a little bit, can take a little bit of time. But if you're using a cycle menu, again, there is a cut and paste feature to make it easier. So I normally tell people to use this search feature instead of just using this little feature here where you kind of click on it and it shows you a list of items. So for instance, for breakfast, if I was serving bacon, I could start typing in the word bacon and it would take me to bacon. If I was serving my bread, let's say I'm serving wheat bread, I start typing in wheat bread. It'll take me right there. If the bread is whole grain, I want to toggle this little button that says whole grain, and that will make it so, and that'll make it show up on my menu. Remember, you have to serve at least one whole grain rich item a day. So you do want to make sure you're toggling the whole grain rich button so we can get that whole grain item accounted for. If I served a vegetable for breakfast, I can put that in. Let's say I had tomatoes. And then, of course, I had my milk. I need to hit save. If for any reason you forgot what the meal pattern was, you can always click here under, let me show you that again, meal pattern requirements. You can click here, and this lets you know what the breakfast meal patterns are, so you can make sure that you do not miss anything. If you had a special note that you wanted to leave here, you can. I can just say sliced tomatoes if I want to be very, very clear on what was served. AM snack, same thing. I say I served crackers. I can just say crackers, start typing that in, and then I get a list of crackers. Let's say I had the club crackers, peanut butter. Peanut butter is a meat alternate, so I can say peanut butter, save. Lunch, I served chicken, I had some chicken breast, and I had a roll and mixed vegetables. So you get the point. So all you have to do, if you start typing it in, it'll kind of just pop up for you there. Okay. And finally, I'm going to fill in the PM snack. Had some black beans and some tortillas. Hit save. All right, so that is our menu. So if you go over here, that's the daily menu. That's how you can enter it in. And then if you go to menu calendar, I must not have hit save somewhere. You have to hit save after every entry, which makes it, if you do not hit save, it will. And I was doing so well at hitting save. I think it was this PM snack I didn't hit save for. All right, let's see if it'll let me go now. No? Okay. Is it AM snack? Is it this one? Now I know I've hit save for everybody. All right. There we are. So this is your menu calendar. There are a few things on your menu calendar that I want to go over with you. Let me go back to this one. If you ever, when you go to your menu calendar, if you ever see something that says menu incomplete, it will show you the menu meal that is incomplete. So for instance, menu incomplete, it has a red box around the L. That's letting me know it's lunch. You just select the L and it'll take you there. And look, I did not put a milk. Once I put that milk there and hit save, when I go back to my menu calendar, that menu incomplete should be gone. And it is, great. So you always want to make sure you go and look at your menu calendar to make sure there's nothing on there saying that it's incomplete. One of the easiest ways to lose out on reimbursement is by having a menu that's not creditable or you're missing items. So please make sure that you're checking that so you won't have any missed items. Now I'm going to show you how to copy your menus. You just go here where it says copy menus. Now you can select a span or you can only copy a day. I like the multi-day. You can do, this is can be performed for your infant menus and your non-infant menus. It works the same way, so I'll just show you how to do it for your non-infant menus since it's identical in the way that it works. So I'm going to copy April 7th through April 8th's menu, and I want to put it on April 9th. And hit continue and copy menus. And there it is. So this will work on a larger scale. So like if you have a 2-week cycle menu, you would put in your 2 weeks of menus and then cut and paste to to copy that. So that way you're not doing all of that entry, okay? And then as the month goes on, if there's little items here and there you need to update, no worries. You just go to that particular meal and you select it, and then you can make any changes or updates that you need to make so your menu can be accurate. Now, we do advise that if you're not using the menu in Kid Kare to print out, you will need to, well, let me show you first how to print the menu. So you can print the menu that's in Kid Kare by going to reports, and then you would go to meals and attendance, and then you would go to the center monthly menu plan. We want to see a whole month. I want to see March because I think it has more dates in there. And you can print out the non-infant and the infants. I'm just going to print out the non-infant for now. And so this is what it looks like when you print it out. So I'm going to make it blow it up just a little bit. So the items that you put in are here. If your menu does not have this civil rights statement on it, you will need to print it on there. It automatically comes out on the menu in Kid Kare. But if your menu does not have this statement that says this institution is an equal opportunity provider, you will need to add that to your menu, okay? The Kid Kare menu automatically has that on there. But either way, so this is what your menu would look like if you decided to print the menu from Kid Kare, and you can print it up. If you ever had to make a change to an item, you could just draw a line through it and write in the right item or whatever. Or if you're using Child Care's menu template, if you're using our template, we do also already have the statement on there. That's the one where you can either handwrite or go in through, I think, Word, you can type in the meal items. And I believe that is it. So yeah, just an hour. So if anybody has any questions about what we went over today, is there anything that you want to see me show you again, or anything you have? I'm here to help. So if you do have any questions, let me know.
I have one question. So like after you enter the menus in for the month and say your vendor changes something, can you go back in and change that? And I mean, I know you can go back in and change it, but do you still change it on your menu at the center and then change it in Kid Kare and print it out for Kid Kare?
That's exactly right. So you would want to go back. So your menu, we like to call the menu that you have posted your working menu. That's the one that really should be changed. So when we come into the center, if we're monitoring you, if somebody from the state comes in, they're gonna want to see that your menu matches exactly what's being served. So if it's just like, hey, we're not serving applesauce, we're serving peaches, just walk right through applesauce, right in peaches. And then later on during the day, or even the next day, you can go into Kid Kare and make those changes. But it's most important that the one that's your center menu that people can see is always up to date.
Right. So would you guys, because I know you said like you have to have the original for attendance, would you need the one that we mark through as that original document?
Yes. So at the end of the month, when you're scanning in your document to us, just scan in the one take it off the wall, scan that one in, and we still have the one in Kid Kare. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So that's how that will work.
Excellent.
Did you have any other questions? Are you feeling kind of, and honestly, Katie, you're probably going to have to just get in there and play around, and then you'll probably be like, Angela didn't tell me that, and then you could just message me.
Okay. Yeah, our vendor changes things on us a lot, like, and they don't usually tell us, just send something different. So I'm like updating it as it comes in. So, you know, it's it's going to be a hot mess in the beginning while we're trying to figure it all out. But
And that's fine. And if you put, and I don't know, whatever menu you're putting up now, if you're putting up your vendor menu, yeah, you can still do the same thing that you're doing now. Just mark through it, write it in there, and then whenever you have the chance, put it into Kid Kare.
okay. Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. I think that's
All
it.
right. Do you know when you're going to be starting?
So I was hoping that we could start soon, but we haven't had anyone come to the center and do that, like, initial
well,
check-in.
Well, you are, I believe your center is approved because you're taking, let me double check, but I believe that, yeah, you are, yeah. So after this training, you are approved. Now, someone will not come out until they're going to come out within your 4 weeks, your first 4 weeks. So, and they're going to come out to observe what you're doing based on your training. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, we got to get it right, because you're just doing it based on what you believe is right. And so then they'll say, hey, either you're doing everything great, or they might say, hey, you need to make some changes here and there. None of that is it's your 4-week visit. It's your time to make mistakes and for us to see it and then correct it. So that's the time that you're going to see somebody, and they will schedule that with you. So whenever you start, just let me know. If you're going to start on Monday, that's great. And then I'll just let the person who's monitoring you know that they need to contact you, soon to schedule that 4-week visit so they can see how you guys are doing.
Okay. Yeah, then as long as I can get everything in Kid Kare and get us up and going, then yeah, hopefully we will be able to start Monday.
Okay. All right.
Because we've been serving meals to everyone for the past 3 months.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and put you down for Monday, and if it changes, just let me know. And then I will let what area are you in again?
Lynchburg.
Okay. I think Ian is going to probably be your monitor, so I will send him a message and let him know.
I've worked with Ian before.
Oh, cool. So he'll be emailing you soon to let you know that he's going to come out. So he'll schedule that. That's not an unscheduled visit. So he'll schedule that with you, so you'll know that he'll be coming out. And then today, before I leave there, I'm going to make sure that I send you your login and password for Kid Kare.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. No problem. Well, you have at it. Have fun. If you do have any questions, just shoot me an email, okay?
I will. Thank you so much, Angela.
No problem. Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.